This is a very unusual sight. A sloth in a hurry. It wants to defecate, and the only place it's happy doing that, oddly enough, is down on the ground. The sloth's technique is to give them time. Then, eventually, this mobile compost heap pulls itself together and starts on a long and dangerous journey. This extraordinary creature is half blind, half deaf, and this is just about as fast as it can move.
There is out there a deliberate undermining of mainstream media.
What?
There are the conspiracy theorists, there are the social media drivers who are trying to do everything they can to keep people in their little filter bubbles, to prevent people from actually agreeing on a common set of facts, the way, CBC and CTV, when they were our only sources of news, used to and global used to project across the country at least a common understanding.
Are you serious?
So he has eliminated the rights of Canadians all across Canada. That's why whenever Justin Trudeau goes out in public, he's met with large mobs of people that say they hate him. Like this.
Look at his bug teeth. Pleasure to see you as well. Hey there, how you doing? Shaking your hand, boy. Piece of shit, man. Why is that, sir? You stopped the entire country. You've been listening to Putin, have you? Putin? No. But definitely don't listen to your propaganda, eh?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen across our beautiful country of Canada, our friends around the world, in the known and unknown universe. Welcome back to your favorite Angry Canadian on the 27th day of February 2024. And here we go. I am pissed right off. Did you hear what this little piss-shit dictator Trudeau said about the media? And he's wondering why some people, and I gotta say some people because there's a hell of a lot of Canadians who just, they got their eyes shut, their mouth closed, their ears plugged, going, nah, we don't want to know how bad things are because, well, we're Canadians and we're not going to say shit if our mouth is full of it. And I'm not talking about you out there who are watching this, but you know who the hell I'm talking about because they are found coast to fucking coast. So in this video, I want to focus a little bit about Chrystia Freeland, George Soros, lying, Ukraine, all the stuff that is making news today.
Who elected Soros to dictate public policy and laws? Why does he feel entitled to impose his agenda?
Chrystia Freeland interviewing none other than George Soros, saying she is, quote, listening carefully like student to teacher. The closeness of these two should alarm every Canadian.
What sort of a financial deal should Obama be seeking to strike when he travels to China next month?
No, I think this would be the time because you really need to bring China into the creation of a new world order.
Don't be afraid to call your enemies by their name. Consider, for example, George Soros, as you call him here. I know George Soros very well. He is my opponent. He believes in none of the things that we do. And he has an army at his service. Money, NGOs, universities, research institutions, and half the bureaucracy in Brussels. He uses this army to force his will on his opponents, like us Hungarians.
Who elected Soros to dictate public policy and laws? Why does he feel entitled to impose his agenda?
He thinks that the values dear to all of us led to the horrors of the 20th century. But the case is exactly the opposite. Our values save us from repeating history's mistakes. The horrors of Nazism and communism happened because some Western states in continental Europe abandoned their Christian values.
Freeland, also a hybrid who moved from a brilliant career as a commentator on economics and finance to an active role as a progressive.
The Chrystia Freeland version of fascism. Yes. And I know a lot about this because I knew Chrystia Freeland when she, was a journalist at the Financial Times, whose name shall forever live in infamy for employing her. And I remember even then thinking, this woman is not bright at all. But boy, does she have high self-esteem. I don't think I've ever even seen it's off the, I don't know what the self-esteem measurement scale is, the Richter scale. But her self-esteem was literally unassailable. It was bomb-proof. If a nuclear bomb dropped on your town, you could hide beneath Chrystia Freeland's self-esteem and live. There's like nothing you could do to shake it. Nothing. No amount of evidence of her stupidity and wrong decisions and idiotic views could dissuade her from the core belief that she was awesome and you were not. And I kind of stood back in admiration, so I guess I shouldn't be totally shocked that she's helping to run and destroy your country.
Politician and member of parliament in Canada, and I only hope that Christia's work in Canada will spill over south of the border to the United States.
Okay, thank you everybody for being here. George's team felt that the space was not really conducive to Q&A because it's such a long haul. So it's just going to be me asking George questions, and I'm going to try to channel.
I always thought she was a fucking witch. She's going to try to channel. What's she going to do? Put on one of those gypsy outfits? Oh, I hope I'm not racially, whatever law I might break if I say something like that. But, yeah, she's going to channel her powers to figure out all these things because she is such a special, she is special, all right. Really special.
All the questions that everyone would have wanted me to ask. You can yell at me afterwards if I don't ask the right ones.
I'll yell at you.
Okay, so George, the Munich Security Conference this year, which you spoke at, had the title Global Disorder. Is that right? Are we living in a particularly disordered time? That's one of your areas of expertise. What's going on?
No, I agree with that because the global governance is failing, and you have all kinds of crises all over the world, and instead of and they might be solvable by themselves, but actually they fester. They don't get solved, and they accumulate, and they are all interconnected in a reflexive fashion.
The global elites, they hate our success, and they fear yours. Institutions were created to serve the people, and not the other way around. Well, so if the government can print unlimited amounts of money, why do they collect taxes? You pay high taxes only to uphold the illusion that you are funding the government, which you are not.
Who really is George Soros? Well, according to his website, he is, and I quote, prominent international supporter of democratic ideals and causes for more than 30 years. His philanthropic organisation, the Open Society Foundations, supports democracy and human rights in more than 100 countries. And that work is, and I quote again, to support individuals and organisations across the globe fighting for freedom of expression, accountable government and societies that promote justice and equality. Well, What's wrong with that? It all sounds peachy and a postcard for billionaire philanthropy. However, once you get past the self-serving website blurb, it is a slightly darker path that gets revealed. You see, Soros and the Open Society Foundation's billions look to be a one-way flow of leftist funding. There is scarcely a left-wing cause he doesn't have his financial fingerprints on.
The government is funded by money printing, paper backed with paper. Confidence in your currency will be lost. The dollar will fall, and the Western civilization with it. We transform El Salvador from the most dangerous country in the world to the safest in the Western Hemisphere. The corrupt system work in tandem with the so-called international community, the NGOs, and of course the fake news, just like it happens here in the United States.
Have you noticed how some in the media just suck up to some politicians?
I'm struck just in your presence.
Struck in her presence.
Looking you in the eye with your passion that you are displaying.
Republicans are treated differently.
If I may finish just answering,
well, let me
this
just.
is really important.
I'm going to go ahead and interrupt you here.
On the DOJ
Are you comfortable
and the
with
FBI,
that term? Let's just,
we have
just
seen.
on my question, though, Governor.
Excuse me.
Aggressive interviews are easy to notice, but some bias is more subtle. For example,
What a great campaign!
the media have always covered Iowa caucus victory speeches.
We're going to want to listen in very, very closely.
Thank you, Iowa.
But this year, when Trump won,
Thank you. We love you all.
CNN cut away from his speech.
Here he is right now under my voice. You hear him repeating his anti-immigrant rhetoric.
Actually, no, Jake, you hear him. We don't. CNN wouldn't let us actually listen to Trump and decide for ourselves. MSNBC showed none of Trump's speech. Rachel Maddow said,
We will let you know if there's any news made.
Maddow says it's not responsible to broadcast Trump live because he lies so much.
There is out there a deliberate undermining of mainstream media.
What?
There are the conspiracy theorists, there are the social media drivers who are trying to do everything they can to keep people in their little filter bubbles, to prevent people from actually agreeing on a common set of facts, the way CBC and CTV, when they were our only sources of news, used to and global used to project across the country these common understandings.
Serious?
So he has eliminated the rights of Canadians all across Canada. That's why whenever Justin Trudeau goes out in public, he's met with large mobs of people that say they hate him. Like this.
Pleasure to see you as well. Hey there, how you doing? Shaking your hand, boy. What's that, sir? Come to the entire country. You've been listening to Putin. Putin? No, definitely don't listen to your propaganda, eh?
I mean, who elected Soros to dictate public policy and laws? Why does he feel entitled to impose his agenda? Let me tell you something. Soros and his cronies hit a brick wall in El Salvador.
The federal government is poised to introduce legislation tomorrow aimed at addressing online harm. Now, the bill is expected to have 5 areas of focus, including hate speech, terrorist content, incitement to violence, sharing of non-consensual images, and child exploitation. There's also expected to be measures to address cyberbullying and inciting self-harm. The bill will also try to address sexually explicit deep fakes, which is created through AI.
I really wish we could put politicians and some of these oligarchs and others into a dungeon and throw the friggin' key away. So, Online Harm Act. Oh, wow, he's doing something really beneficial and good under the umbrella of children. We got to protect the children. Everything that he is talking about is already against the law. But the way the media is going to present this is that, oh God, this is going to save. You know, there were children that harmed themselves because of online bullying and content. We're going to put an end to that, boy, I tell you. And all this terrorism, oh no, you can't. We're going to have legislation, because the legislation only goes after ordinary people, for fuck's sakes. It's like restricting guns. Do the criminals have guns? Yeah. Do you? Well, maybe you do, but you're okay. But You know what I'm saying? So much bullshit.
The right way, you take your best government and you put him to govern Afghanistan and tell them, okay, you govern Afghanistan the same way you govern this European country. You'll be dead in a week because you cannot govern Afghanistan like you govern Europe. We don't tell you that you shouldn't have a monarchy. I mean, we're fine with your monarchy. We love your monarchy. It's fine. We don't say, oh, you shouldn't have a monarchy and you shouldn't have hereditary titles. Why? Because it's your country. You can do whatever you want with it. In the 80s, the war. You had a fight with the Soviet Union. Had nothing to do with us. What did you do? You financed El Salvador to fight a war between us, between brothers. 1 million displaced. They went to the US, into ghettos. They formed the gangs. Then they deport the gangs. Gangs come here. You send us another recipe. Law to don't arrest minors. But all the gang members were minors at the time. So gangs grew, and then they terrorized the country. They started killing people, and we became the murder capital of the world. El Salvador was turned from the most dangerous place in the world to the safest in the Western Hemisphere.
We begin this hour with breaking news out of Ukraine. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, along with other Western leaders, arriving in Kyiv this morning to mark the second anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine and to show the West's commitment to that country.
As Russia's invasion approaches its second grim anniversary, Ukraine continues to struggle. The latest loss, the city of Avdiivka falling to Moscow.
Canada has a responsibility to help Ukraine win back its territory.
The defense minister announced what form Ottawa's new help will take. Some 800 drones worth nearly $100 million from a previously announced assistance package, capable of surveillance as well as carrying small payloads of munitions.
And let's go back now to Ukraine, where the Prime Minister is speaking.
War to last this long, because no one expected that Ukraine would withstand Putin's army. But as Ukraine has proven over and over again, Putin made a grave miscalculation, and Ukraine still stands. So today, Canada and Ukraine have completed negotiations and have signed a historic new bilateral security cooperation agreement. As part of our agreement, we're committing over $3 billion of critical military and financial support to Ukraine in 2024.
Because we want and salivate to send the money to Ukraine also. You got 10 or 15 Republicans who side with the Democrats. They believe in Ukraine first and America last. They believe that we should borrow $100 billion, whether it comes from China or whether the Federal Reserve prints it up. We're going to take $100 billion and send it over there, on top of the $113 billion we've already sent. Shouldn't we examine what they're going to spend it on? Shouldn't we have like a special inspector general, someone who's trained to look for waste? Shouldn't we have that person appointed to look at the waste? I've advocated it for over a year. I've forced them to vote on it. The Democrats all voted no, and all the big government Republicans who love this money, they voted no too. They don't want scrutiny of how the money's being spent.
The new military support builds on what we've provided since 2022 and continue to provide, and it includes...
Ukraine is not a fucking democracy. It is a corrupt country whereby some estimates a quarter of everything sent to Ukraine, weapons, money, everything, ends up on black market making money for the oligarchs. Where do you think they get the fucking money to buy mansions around the world and cars and clothes and whatever?
Significant support for the Armored Coalition, which is an area of Canadian strength and will allow us to continue to demonstrate leadership amongst our coalition partners, and support to the Air Force Coalition, building on our commitment in July. There will also be ongoing support over several years because we are here for the long term to help Ukraine win a decisive victory against Putin's unprovoked illegal invasion.
I got more to say about the unprovoked invasion by Putin in another video again, because there's just so much shit to talk about. This is Vancouver, British Columbia, just a few weeks ago. This is what downtown looks like. And, little Trudeau, $3 billion here, $2 billion there. He's throwing the future of Canada away to buy another election. That's all it comes down to. I made a video showing Chrystia Freeland announcing they're all buying elections. That's how this, it's not democracy, that's how this capitalist world works. You can buy whatever. There'll be somebody that'll sell out to you. You can bet on that. Very few people have what it takes to stand up to these. I can't think of anything positive to call them. But Canada has a real problem. Coast to coast, homelessness, housing unaffordability. You can go down a whole list. And he is pissing around with Ukraine.
About half of the jobs in the United States, a highly developed country, is threatened today to be replaced in the next 10, 15 years by artificial intelligence, robotization, three-dimensional printing. Thank you, Minister, to remind you how much progress we have made as a humankind. And when I was speaking here 7 years ago, after having written a book about the fourth industrial revolution, I showed how this revolution will change how we live, how we act, how we communicate, how we produce, and how we consume. Now, we are speaking not just about the fourth industrial revolution. We are speaking about the transition of humankind into a new era. And I did something maybe unusual. I took ChatGPT and I had a long discussion with ChatGPT, with my pod, if I may say so, to see how this new era will look like. And finally, I had about 20 pages of text, and I asked ChatGPT, summarize the text and tell me now, based on our discussion, how will the new era, the intelligent era, look like? And I read you the text. Envisioning a future propelled by the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution, we see a new dawn of human civilization where artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of the Things, 3D printing, genetic engineering, quantum computing become the foundations of our daily life. Environmental stewardship is paramount, with technologies deployed to combat climate change, protect diversity, and restore natural ecosystems. Just think of the power of the combination of artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and big data. So it's a combination of the different technologies which really bring the fundamental change. And finally, I think we have to be prepared for a world where we see a fusion of our physical, our digital, and our biological dimensions. So it will be a world integrating the physical, biological, and the digital dimensions. So it will be a new world. And I'm looking for a minister in 10 years, probably it will be completely different from what it is now.
I've worked on climate change for 25 years.
I worked on climate change since '73.
So you
just to tell you, because
than
I was the person who gave the Club of Rome the first big platform. I share with you the concern, and I think we can solve those issues only if we repair our global architecture and our global system. But you never have heard from me political statements or economic statements which are, let's say, in any way penetrate the cabinets.
Fourth industrial revolution will lead to is a fusion of our physical, our digital, and our biological identities.
Can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains, and I can immediately feel, because you all will have implants, and we measure your brain waves, and I can immediately tell you how the people react, or I can feel how the people react to your answers. With such concrete proposals and ideas of how we can really create, I would say, a new world order.
The World Economic Forum is now very much engaged into this initiative of shaping a great reset for the post-corona era. Steps we are undertaking to have business leaders accepting to report on the ESGs.
The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber